Welcome to Manager Tools. This is Sarah.
And I'm Mark.
Today's cast is the 4 hidden dangers of not delegating, part 2 of 2.
This cast answers these questions. What if I don't think I can delegate? What are the risks of not delegating? And what are the results of not delegating?
If you want answers to these questions and more, keep listening.
Introducing our newest offering, the Effective Senior Manager Training. You may have heard about the Effective Senior Manager, designed specifically for organizations looking to elevate their mid to upper level leaders. This is the next step for managers already familiar with the Manager Tools Trinity and operating at a more senior level. We'll work directly with your team, up to 30 professionals, and tailor the guidance. To discuss details, pricing, and availability, contact Maggie at customerservice@manager-tools.com.
So, reduce trust. And we started with reduce trust because trust is the coin of the realm in managing. The most correlated measure relative to results and retention is trust. The higher the trust score between you and your team, and by the way, you can't get trust just by being nice, okay? The higher the trust score between you and your team, the better your results and retention are. The lower your trust score, the lower your results and retention. So that one's first because we want you to know anything you could do outside of lying, cheating, and stealing, that would lower the trust score. Now, second one, the hidden danger of reduced development for your people. And it's true for everyone on your team that you reduce their development. They don't grow as much. But think back to what we were just talking about with the effect of non-delegation on your top performers. Not delegating particularly affects your top performers. They suffer from your failure to engage in one of the core managerial behaviors. Look, one of the classic rejoinders, excuses, responses, reasons we hear from managers regarding not delegating is, I have to protect my people. Unfortunately, folks, and I felt it myself too when I was a manager, this rationale is wrong on multiple levels.
Mm-hmm. And folks, the easiest debunking of this protective thinking is, as I mentioned previously, the Middleman Test. The Middleman Test suggests that you can fairly accurately predict how your directs are going to handle something that you ask or task them for by asking yourself, how would you respond to that same request from your boss? Remember, you're not always in the middle between your boss and your direct, so you're both a direct and a boss simultaneously, and you're not that different from your directs. So whatever you might do or think or feel in response to your boss's behaviors is a pretty good guide to how your directs would react to something similar from you.
Yeah, look, if you apply the Middleman Test to the protection concept that causes managers not to delegate, it fails pretty quickly. What makes you think that protecting your directs by not delegating to them is the right approach to your work when your boss is not protecting you? Now, you might be thinking, well, because I don't like my boss. Okay, but how do you think that stuff got into your boss's inbox? It came down from on high. Now, maybe somebody who's listening to this has the mistaken impression that everything is delegated downwards and the top 500 people in your organization sit around eating bonbons all day. I promise you that's not the case. Are you really willing to say that your boss is that wrong in his approach or her approach to be delegating to you, but you're going to do the right thing by your directs? Do you really think you have enough insight into what's happening at your boss's level that you can say, oh yeah, she's wrong. She's wrong. Have you not figured out that your boss is being delegated to all along on a regular basis and is simply responding to the delegation cascade, which there's an entire podcast about? You can listen to the juggling koan. You hear us talk about delegation cascade again for the last 20 years. But you're going to be the lone noble Horatio at the bridge hero and say, no, this too, you shall not pass. I will not allow you to pass, that you're going to be Gandalf.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you're going to be Gandalf, keeping the Balrog from catching his friends? No, that's not how organizations work. You're not in a mythical fantasy realm. This is real life. Delegation comes from the top. And when that happens, you're obligated to look at your priorities and figure out what to delegate. And that's how your people learn how to do more. The single most frequent and best way for people to develop is doing their job. You don't learn it from class. You don't learn it from training, even though we provide classes and training. But we know the data. The data is the best development, the most development happens on the job by being given more to do and learning how to stretch.
Mm-hmm. And folks, don't get the wrong thinking in your mind that your boss is passing things down frivolously to you. Your boss is passing things down because their boss is passing things down because their boss is passing things down. And the people causing this whole issue aren't even in your organization. You can't blame anyone for passing work down. The problem here, the people whose fault it is your customers. Because your customers want new and different and better and shiny. And if you and your organization don't figure out how to make that happen, then your competitor, who probably will, let's be clear, figure out how to make it happen, even though also they have too much work to do. They will figure out how, and your customers will go elsewhere. Don't assume your boss is at fault or their boss is at fault or the shareholders are at fault. None of those people are at fault. Your customers are the ones whose fault it is because they always want you to evolve. The cycle doesn't stop.
Yep.
Okay, so folks, that takes me then to the second most important reason that the delegation cascade exists. The first, being cost reduction, is professional development. Now, Managerial Economics 101, we have a podcast for that.
Can I interrupt there? I think the way that came out was confusing. The most important reason the delegation cascade exists is, the second most important is professional development. The first one is cost reduction.
Correct.
Right?
Sorry. Yes.
If Sarah's my boss and I report to her and she can do a thing and I can do a thing, I may not be able to do it as well as her, but I can do it above the minimum standard of the company. By definition, Managerial Economics 101 says, if I can do it and she can do it, I should be the one doing it because it's cheaper for me to do it. That's how the cost reduction happens. Sorry, Sarah.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Absolutely. Yes. Managerial Economics 101 teaches us that work should be done at the lowest level possible. And it's therefore cheapest because it's at the lowest level. But the value versus cost of work being done at almost too low a level is more people learn how to handle a responsibility. And Mark mentioned the juggling koan. Again, this is a podcast. It's in our Hall of Fame, and it teaches us that delegating some of our work to our directs allows them to learn how to handle it while they're having the political protection of us, their bosses. It's like doing a brand new job with training wheels on. And when you get promoted to our level, everything won't be new and overwhelming, and everything you do won't be, oh, this is the first time I've ever done it. So many managers, folks, feel like when you were promoted to being a leader in your organization, it was kind of like being kicked into the deep end of a swimming pool and you didn't know how to swim. And you have the ability as a leader today to give people water wings, to help them float when they start that job. Or you can let them do what you did, which was fumble and be highly stressed out and nearly fail for the first year of the job because you had no idea what to do. This is your choice. Do you want to give them a hand or no?
Yeah. The fundamental theme of development in organizations of all types seems to be figure it out on your own. It'll be a good lesson. You should suffer. That is not what happens in great organizations. Great organizations delegate. Number twos learn from number ones. Number twos have done most of the job before they become a number one, and so on. People are always learning their boss's job, not just for succession planning. What happens if Jamie Dimon gets hit by a bus, for instance, but also for development because it helps enormous and it's also cheaper. And here's perhaps the scariest, maybe not the biggest, but the scariest problem created if you don't delegate to your people. Other managers, your peers who are delegating, are developing their people while you're protecting yours. Not delegating robs your top performers of opportunities to learn those higher skills that you would normally use. It robs them of the ability to meet more senior people because they're working on a task that is slightly higher than their level. And then also showing those senior people that they have what it takes to deserve a promotion. While you're protecting your people, I'm so impressed that you do it. You're such a protective boss. It's so good. Way to go, Horatio. Okay. Others aren't. They're not doing it. And their directs will end up being your directs bosses. And it will be your fault. And, this is a classic case of protectionism. And protectionism doesn't work in markets or economics. Generally, it just doesn't.
Exactly. Okay, so Mark, I feel like we've gone through the trying to convince people using failures, describing failures that are about the team, the people themselves, the organization. Okay, so now let's start moving into what I'm going to think of as a little bit more self-serving motives and dangers, beginning with the hidden danger of overload. The third hidden danger of not delegating is the risk to you and your family, to your performance and to your career by trying to do too much, by not spending time in the areas you ought to spend time because you're spread so incredibly thin, and then, in turn, failing at all of it. It's a heroic approach fueled by perfectionism in many instances. It's an I'm better at this than my directs mentality and a desire for gain because, my boss appreciates me and rewards me for being good at anything they give me.
Yeah. I'll tell you, we were talking about I'm better at this than my directs. The CEO of your company is better at everything just about than a few specialist jobs. And they're not doing everything. The logic of that is just, it's self-serving. You're right. That's, these are now the self risks. The first two risks were direct risk and organizational risk, but these two are self-serving. The fact is most bosses cannot specifically say, and I'm talking about your boss thinking about you, most bosses cannot specifically say which of their directs is doing what, nor can they separate, in a lot of cases, which of their skips has responsibility for what. It's just too much to do. The idea that work comes from your boss to you, and that means you personally, specifically only you, are obligated to do it, is just plain wrong. And here's an organizational principle at work. The vast majority of organizational work, folks, doesn't pass from individual to individual. It passes from responsible party to responsible party. That's how work moves in organizations. So what this means is that when work comes to you from your boss doesn't care who does it. As long as it meets his standard and you understand that you're responsible not for actually doing it, but for seeing it gets done. And frankly, even bosses who say, I want you to handle this personally, don't mean it the vast majority of the time. There could be something that's highly specific, confidential, of particular interest to a powerful executive in the organization. Okay, fine. It will fall into the I need a man for a secret and dangerous mission kind of thing. That happens, okay? It might be A Message to Garcia, which is a great book if you haven't read it. It just doesn't, this idea that my boss gave it to me because he trusts me. In some cases, I think, Sarah, that's a reinforcement of our own worth.
Oh, yeah. This is very important. It used to be mine. You should do it. Yeah. See, and Mark, and I think of some of those as maybe the boss just wants a direct line to it. They don't want to have to go through you to get more information. They just want to be able to go to the person who is doing the job and see having to go through you as being more complex or more difficult or more cumbersome in a way. But as long as you're comfortable with your boss going directly to a direct who is doing it and alleviating that additional friction that comes with the communication, then yeah.
Great.
Exactly. And folks, if you take every delegation from your boss personally and add it to your stack of responsibilities, you're either going to fail at getting all of it done, or you're going to ruin your personal life by working ungodly hours. We have a podcast. It is called the Yellow M&M Analogy. If you've not listened to it, listen to it. It's so good. It is Hall of Fame. We often release it at Christmas time, I think, in the Career Tools feed.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a really good one. And sometimes managers say to us, I don't have or want a personal life. And our response is, okay, sure, but maybe get one. You'll be such a better manager if you have things that you value outside of the organization itself. I'm one of those people. I get it. You love it. But your ability to lead people and just be within an organization as a better person in that organization will wildly increase if you have other objectives and other parts of your life that are fulfilling.
Yeah. And all related to this hidden danger is the common misconception, not common wisdom, but misconception that those who get ahead are always working full out, 110%. Now look, every story you read about chief executives, they work very hard. But the vast majority of those chief executives whom we know have dinner at home at a reasonable hour every night. They're not traveling. And yes, they travel a lot. And a night or two a week, they have client dinners and so on. The classic example is walk around a New York City high-end restaurant at night during the week, and you'll see famous people, CEOs, executive vice presidents, and so on, having dinner with clients, dinners with vendors, and so on. But other than that, they spend a reasonable amount of time at home. They work a lot. Don't get me wrong. But you know what? Part of the reason they work a lot is they make $10 million a year.
Yeah.
And you don't.
They're given the reward for the extra time away from their families that they are having to invest into this role. Yeah, exactly. And you're not. That's the point of it. You're not. So don't work $10 million a year hours, folks. Just don't.
Go home.
Do it. Exactly. And further, when we're talking about that sheer amount of work itself, the more work you have to do, the more you'll be tempted to, or the more you'll need to do work late in the day. It's just math. I mean, it's just a quantity problem. You're going to want to do more of your important work when everybody is gone, when you're not as sharp or as quick or as good at making decisions. If you save those important things until 5:30 p.m., you're not going to do them nearly as well as if you did those things at 10 a.m. before your what do they call it, Mark? Is it ego strength?
Ego strength. It's a stupid phrase.
It's a stupid phrase, but essentially your ability to make decisions weakens through
every
the
time
course
you make
of
a
the
decision.
Day. Exactly.
Yes.
Exactly. You'll be better, you'll be faster earlier in the day. A plurality of chief executives ascribe to the no big decisions afternoon rule. Everybody knows they're less effective, more sloppy, less decisive, less efficient, worse at making decisions after everyone has gone home. Don't save your important work for that.
I actually discovered that a couple of my clients, big corporate clients, this is years ago before Manager Tools, had all kinds of internal security video. And so I had a team of about 6 of my people. We asked for it. We signed non-disclosure agreements and we analyzed it. Now this is 30 years ago. It's before AI and bots and stuff like that. So we had to actually watch the video. Now, luckily there were time clocks on it, so you would know. And we would start looking at managers after 5 o'clock in the afternoon. And it was horrible to watch. It was painful to watch. These are the people who says, once everybody's gone, I can get my work done. And their work had implications that was bigger than some of the work that was done during the day, but they were making big decisions at 5 and 6 o'clock while also faffing about, and literally nothing got done. They would pick up folders, they would leaf through them, but do nothing. They would basically, I could hear it in their voice, and I could hear their voices in their heads because I had it in my head, which is like, yeah, I'm not going to do that now. That's a 2-hour thing I've got to do. Yeah, that's what happens. And by the way, that's the time you're stealing from your family.
All of that is happening while you could be at home having dinner with your family.
Yeah, exactly. And look, folks, heaven forbid your boss finds out you're doing it all yourself, playing the victimized hero, protecting your people. Can't trust them. Okay. She will take you off the promotion list faster than you can say, I can do it better than my directs. Because that is not the way organizations are supposed to work.
Which takes us then to the last and Mark's favorite, as he said
Yes.
earlier, hidden failure. That is the hidden danger of junior executive failure. The final hidden danger, of delegating is one
of not delegating. Yeah.
Is one that we've talked about before. We have a podcast for this, do we not, Mark?
Oh, it might be in executive tools.
Yeah, about this danger.
Actually, Sarah, can I just say something as an aside? I've recently had some conversations with people who have been listening to executive tools. 2 or 3 of them, let's say out of 20, said, I've noticed that you're talking a lot more about failures in executive tools. I'm like, oh yeah, absolutely. One mentioned we have a podcast. There's a podcast in executive tools called The New Mode of Executive Failure, which is that when you're an individual contributor, your world is pretty proscribed. You know what you're supposed to do. And the way you're supposed to do it, there's a process and a system and policies and so on. When you get to be a manager, your job is still pretty well prescribed. When you become an executive, you're going to be asked to do X or Y without any guidance at all. And you can either fail because you chose the right thing but failed to deliver it, or you chose the wrong thing to do and you delivered it, but it didn't have the outcome that you wanted. So these people are asking me, is there more risk? And I said, I think in every conversation, I said something to the effect of, are you kidding? Or no, by definition, there's an old saying in the military, the higher you get up on the flagpole, the more your rear end is exposed, right?
Mm-hmm.
There's more risk the higher you get in the organization. And it's sad. I don't think people understand that there are more risks ahead. And the reason why the pay is higher is in part to compensate you for the risk.
Mm-hmm. And folks, those of you that are listening to this, I know you're listening to it potentially in the free Manager Tools feed, or on Spotify or even on YouTube, for example. Sure. Executive Tools is a series of podcasts for executives is probably, I'm going to say an exaggeration. You don't have to be an executive. No. You could be an aspiring executive, be a manager, or a manager who just wants to understand more about what's happening above you. And Executive Tools is a paid for podcast. So if you go to our website, manager-tools.com, and become an Executive Tools licensee, you will have access to that series of podcasts as well. Okay, so yes, this final hidden danger, as much as we've talked about it, it's still very much hidden. It's still something that many, many leaders, many managers, many executives don't really know exists. That if you don't delegate as a manager, you won't know how to do it if you are mistakenly, let's face it, promoted to a junior executive role. And this inability, not having learned the art of delegation, is something that will lead to your failure and departure to what we call pursue other opportunities.
Yeah, resign to pursue other opportunities.
Yes, exactly. Which folks, if you don't know, it's just code for, hey, we fired this executive, but it would be way too embarrassing to admit that we let someone get to that level of our organization without knowing they weren't capable of such a basic executive skill. So instead, we're just going to save face and the company's reputation, and we're going to let this person instead resign and give them a financial kiss on the face as they walk out the door.
Exactly. They get a severance pay and
Yeah.
they get to resign. And it's never said publicly that they got fired, but everybody at their level and above knows that's exactly what happened.
We're coming to Los Angeles, August 26th and 27th for an Effective Manager and Effective Communicator conference. We'd love to see our California listeners. And if you're international, this might be a great opportunity to come and join us. We often host people flying in from all over the world at our LAX events. It brings great discussions and ideas to the group. Come see us in LA, August 26th and 27th. Sign up at manager-tools.com/training.
Now let's connect the two. Why does the lack of delegation skills ruin executives? 3 factors associated with your new executive role, if you make it to there, cause the failure. First, your workload is going to triple. We're not going to pay you an executive salary and only increase your workload by 10%. You're going to have a lot more to do. If you've recently got a promotion and you think you might be an executive, but it only appears to be a 10% improvement, it's not an order of magnitude change in your workload, you're probably not an executive in your organization, okay? In fact, it will be too much to do. It will be too much to do. And all of it will be known to be yours, right? It's clear. It's your responsibility. And it must get done, but everyone will admit you don't have time for it, okay? Because remember, you're already at your hourly limit. It's not like you're going home at 3:00 in the afternoon. So the increase in the workload implies something about maybe you not doing all of that work. We hope you're smart about your people, but if you're working 60 hours a week and we suddenly double or triple your workload, what are you going to work 180 hours a week? There aren't that many hours in the week. There's no extra gear of time you can manufacture.
That's exactly it. But that's not all of it. In addition to that, they're going to take away 1/3 of your calendar with many additional meetings, which, let's face it, you must attend, but don't necessarily help you deliver mass at the point of decision of your role. So now, going back to what Mark said, you have triple the work, but only 2/3 the time. We didn't give you more. In fact, we kind of took a little bit of it away. And now that's a multiplier of 4.5. You have so much more work to do. It is laughable to suggest that you could begin to accomplish it.
If it was 10% more, you might be able to be more efficient.
Yeah.
But at 4.5, you're not.
There's no amount of automation or that can help you solve this problem, friend. You're in it.
Now, some people say when I tell them this, I don't really have to go to all those meetings if I don't want to, but you'd be wrong. And there are 2 reasons why you'd be wrong. And you will go to the meetings, believe me. First of all, because executives are part of Team 1. That's another Executive Tools cast. When you truly become an executive, you are no longer leading your part of the organization. You are now part of the leadership of the entire organization. And yes, you have responsibility for your little slice of it, but your primary responsibility is the entire organization. That means your true primary responsibility is to lead the entire place. It's no longer your job to run your part of the organization and to lobby for your part of the organization and to just think about your little group. You're part of the leadership team that runs the entire company.
Mm-hmm. So what being then on Team 1 means is you've got to go to those meetings because you're on a committee or you're on a working group or you're doing something that has implications for more than just your organization. You're part of the organization. And as a junior member of this committee, what have you, you'll be getting deliverables to work on. Try not going to a meeting like that, especially when you find out a C-suite officer is leading the meeting and potentially asked for you to be a part of it because they wanted you to work on a specific initiative. And you're like, nah, not here. You got stuff to do. So much work.
Yeah. The second reason you have to go is because nothing happens individually at the top of an organization. It's going to take relationships, which you can substitute the word politics for, to get stuff done across the organization. If you don't go to those meetings, you won't have the time and the opportunity to build all the relationships you're going to need to carry votes on things like capital requests, or get your peers or colleagues to listen to your pre-wire meetings. If you don't know what pre-wire meetings, there's an Manager Tools cast for that, where you ask them to support your new initiative, which again, that will require other people's support at the executive level. You can't do it individually. When you look up at the top of your organization, folks, what you call politics, those people at the top call collaboration. Yes, people do slightly trade votes for things. They're not going to do anything that's fundamentally wrong, but they recognize that the leadership at the top, for the vast majority of decisions that are made at the top of the organization, are not made singularly by the chief executive. They're made essentially by people talking to others and persuading them, and yes, politicking and accepting less than 100% of what their project is in order to get 70% of it implemented, and making changes in things to satisfy other political stakeholders in the process.
Exactly. So all that, and if now you look back and you haven't delegated and your workload has tripled and a bunch of your time has been taken away, you're going to fail. Everybody will talk about your departure and probably think that you made a big mistake right before you got fired. But you and we are going to know the real reason. You got fired because years before, you didn't do your job and you didn't delegate. When you had to delegate, you couldn't because your team wasn't ready and you didn't know how, and you're not laying all that groundwork, resulted in failure.
Yeah. And the block men die in unstrategic defiance of martial law. Yeah. Do you want me to summarize?
Yeah, do it. Wrap it up.
Look, folks, if we were going to be dramatic, although I think we were
pretty dramatic.
We would say that we hope your chief executive never finds out you're a manager in his organization that doesn't delegate. Frankly, it's even worse than that. We hope that no one involved in succession planning finds out you're not a delegator. If you're not a delegator, you're destroying hard-built trust, you're reducing your direct's development, you're burning yourself out, and you're setting yourself up for failure when they do give you a promotion to the executive ranks. So it boils down to, why wouldn't you start delegating in light of learning how many hidden dangers it eliminates? And I have to say this, Sarah, okay? I wrote this podcast a couple weeks ago. This is a rare programming or production note for our longtime community members. When I first started writing the podcast, some of you know that I like to listen to music when I write because it drowns out other noise on a plane or in a lounge or in my office or outside, out back on my back porch. But I listen to music, and it has to be instrumental music. You can't listen to music with lyrics because the words get in your head. I start singing along to Taylor Swift, for instance. And so that messes you up when you're using words to share ideas that'll help people. So the first instrumental song that was playing when I started writing this podcast in my headphones on the plane was the Imperial March from Star Wars, which is perhaps better known as Darth Vader's theme, which is, I think, a very appropriate theme for the dangers associated with not delegating.
You're absolutely right. Thank you, Mark.
Oh, thank you, Sarah. That was a lot of fun.
Thanks, folks. Hope this helped you. Now help us help others, and tell your friends. And of course, follow, rate, and review our podcast. And remember, 5 stars only, please.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye, everyone.